Okay, and I'm going to share my screen. And okay, all right, let me hold on here. Wait, what's going on? Go back. There we go. All right, so this is oops. This class is about the birth certificate. We're going to dive deep into this tonight. And like I said, if those of you are just jumping on, I am going to save the questions for the end. But if you absolutely need to have a question answered, just raise your hand with the reaction button at the bottom of the page. All right. Okay. All right. So I'm going to read the Bivens decision first. All right. This presentation is private, bearing false witness. Misrepresentation and posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. Anyone who is here under false pretenses, anyone who is working for any foreign government, including the territorial United States or municipal United States, anyone who is being paid or coerced to be here must fully disclose their presence and purpose now or leave the meeting. If they subsequently show up as federal witnesses, they are discredited for failure to disclose. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance in today's meeting that is a member or agent of any law enforcement agency or public agency of the federal, state, city, county, or township agencies present? Is there any response to the Bivens decision? Going once, twice. All right, and 3 times. Okay. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. So my first question is, or the first question that you want to be asking yourself, are you a U.S. citizen? And from the standpoint of the federal government, a U.S. citizen is a citizen of the territories and the District of Columbia, the 10 square miles, and has been since 1864. Federal civilian and military personnel are considered U.S. citizens, while so employed. Political asylum seekers, African Americans who were never granted state citizenship, and welfare recipients, as well as people born in Puerto Rico, people from Guam, American Samoa, and the American Virgin Islands. If you hold a political office, you are a U.S. citizen. If you are none of the above, then you are not a U.S. citizen and you are not obligated to pay federal taxes. We operate in 3 jurisdictions, and that's the way that the government should work. We have the land jurisdiction, which is where the people belong. And we actually have the land and soil jurisdiction. The land is what's underneath the top 6 inches of soil. And then the soil is the jurisdiction of our counties. And the land is international. And so this is where the people live. This is where, we do our day-to-day affairs. Then you have the air jurisdiction and the water jurisdiction. Air jurisdiction is under the control of the Pope, and the water jurisdiction is under the control of the British monarch. And in your everyday life, in your day-to-day affairs and all throughout your day, you're operating in many different jurisdictions, okay? This is a graphic that somebody put together on the Washington State Assembly, and to kind of give everybody an idea that our vessels operate in many jurisdictions. We cross many jurisdictions throughout a normal day. And it's important to be aware of who you are and what jurisdiction you're operating in. And the best way to understand about jurisdictions and why it matters to you is that you need to start looking at your day-to-day affairs as you are operating and everything is done in a contract. So from going to the grocery store to going to the gas station, you're basically contracting in different jurisdictions. Okay, so for instance, if you are in the grocery store and you're contracting with two different manners, you're contracting with the bank, using the bank as a means to pay for the products that you're purchasing, and then you're contracting with the merchant who is selling you the products. Okay, so those are just a few ways to think about how you're operating in different jurisdictions. Okay. And now we have, this is kind of like a graphic layout of the three jurisdictions. And as you can see in the middle here in the circle, we have the law of the land, and it's a national government, and it consists of American state nationals, okay, and American state citizens. And we are sovereign in nature. And then you have the law of the sea, which is the bigger outer circle, right? And that's also international. And they comprise of federal citizens, which is overseen by the British monarch. Okay, it used to be the queen, but now it's the king, right? And then we have over here, we have the law of the air, and that consists of the municipal government, and it's global in nature. Okay. And then of course we have, this up here, we have the law of space, which is basically just an extension of the air, but it's galactic in nature. Okay. And our land jurisdiction is policed by federal marshals, not U.S. marshals. Okay. And federal marshals equals continental marshals. That is the land jurisdiction. And I think back in 2017, it was, Anna renamed the federal marshals as continental marshals so that there was no confusion between the U.S. marshals and our marshals. Okay, because the U.S. marshals, they deal with the sea jurisdiction. All right. And the other thing that, I want to make a note of is that our contract with the sea jurisdiction is the Constitution of 1789. Okay. And that was the contract that we made with the British territorial government because they were to protect the high seas and navigable inland waterways for us. Okay.
A class on how they hijacked us through the birth certificate. I thought it would be good to listen.
Sorry, Latanya, I muted you. So the law of the air is overseen by the Pope, and that is actually our contract with the Pope, which was the Constitution of 1790. Okay. All right. And our marshals, by the way, because they are international in nature, they deal with affairs like child trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking, and securities fraud, and all those types of things. All right. Going on to the next one. Okay, so by 1791, all three levels of the federal government are present in addition to the nation states governments. Okay, so these are the three federal governments. This is the national government, international land, doing business as states of America. And they hold the contract of the original Constitution of 1787. This is our federal republic that we're talking about here, and it was called States of America. Okay, the next part of our federal government is the territorial and its international sea jurisdiction, and they are doing business as United States of America. Okay, and they hold the contract of 1789. So a few years after the Constitution of 1787, this Constitution was signed in 1789. And then just a year later, the municipal government, it's global in air, and it's doing business as United States. Okay. And they hold the Constitution of 1790. Okay. Let's see. All three function in either international or global jurisdictions that are foreign with respect to the actual nation states of this country. Okay. Can anybody tell me what the
Ready?
Can anybody
Ready? Razor?
Can anybody tell me what the nation states are? Anybody know? The nation states are all of our states. So we have New Jersey state, not to be confused with the state of New Jersey. Okay, it's just New Jersey state. These are all the states that are part of the union. All right. And then we have, the nation states hold the soil jurisdiction of each state, which underlies the land jurisdiction of the country as a whole. Okay, so the nation states are the counties. Okay, and the counties make up the state. The United States of America holds all international and global powers in trust for the nation states, either to delegate under contract or to reserve as non-delegated powers. It is our national trust. Okay, this is our federation. This is the United States of America is an unincorporated entity, and this is the federation. Okay, so we have the Union States, which is called the United States, and then we have the federation, which is called the United States of America. All right, and now there are 4 styles of government present. So the first one is the nation states, and they have a Republican style of government. They are considered all the states are republics. Okay, this is what we're talking about. I have a picture up of New Jersey, and you could see all the different colored counties because the nation states are considered our counties. Okay, then we have we the people government. Okay, this is the States of America, and it was an American organization administering our international land jurisdiction. This is the Federation. Okay, this is where all the states come together and are a part of the international land jurisdiction. And this is where the American state citizens operate in. Okay. And then we have the territories have a democracy. So I want to make sure that you guys understand that because you can see in plain sight every time you're looking on the TV, you know, all of these politicians are saying, you know, this is a threat to our democracy. We hear it a lot on the news. And so, you know, they're slapping us in the face with it. But a democracy is the British territorial government. And dominated United States of America were limited to territorial functions. Okay, so all those territories that we talked about a few slides back, which were the American Samoa, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, you know, those are all considered territories, and then the 10 square miles in Washington, D.C. And then the last style of government we have is a municipal government, which is a plenary oligarchy. Okay, the Holy See's United States organizations were limited to municipal functions. Okay, and they were only supposed to be in the 10 square miles in Washington, D.C. They were never supposed to have municipal buildings in each of our towns. You know, so that is a a huge breach of trust. Okay, and I'm going to pull up one of Anna's articles here, okay, the common misconceptions, okay? So ever notice that ubiquitous phrase land and soil? Ever wonder why they don't just lump it together under one word like dirt? The Romans and later the British made a distinction between land and soil, and the Americans followed suit. Under Roman civil law, the soil, Latin soli, comprises the first shovelful of dirt overlying all the rest, which is the land. The British Convention defines soil as the top 6 inches of the earth, a sort of intransigent, permanent skin that covers the entire planet, including the ocean basins. The Romans assessed their empire according to a system of distances and landmarks called stadia. The Brits adopted this system and measured their roads with mileposts and their farm fields with acres, measured via horizontal Cartesian coordinates and marked with boundary stones. So the defining measure of soil is depth, and the defining measure of land is horizontal distance. In this system, which we inherited, the two things, land and soil, are actually quite different, even though they must be considered together because the soil overlays the land. As a practical matter, we all live on the soil. In America, our counties defined our soil jurisdiction, and the counties within the borders of a state taken together create the soil jurisdiction of each state. The soil within each state's borders comprises its national jurisdiction. If you similarly join all the different state soil jurisdictions together, you will find yourself looking at the United States. The familiar multicolored political map showing our states as 50 pieces connected to each other like a crazy quilt. And I guess I would also, if you want to get a visual of this, is that previous slide where I had New Jersey colored with all the different counties. If you could imagine all of our different states separated within their counties, this is what they're talking about here as the national jurisdiction. Directly underlying this quilt top of soil is the land made up of the subsoil and all the minerals and rocks and hidden aquifers and oil deposits we access when we drill wells. If you were to map out the land directly underlying and belonging to each state, you would have another crazy quilt. By this time, you would be looking at the United States of America. Land, unlike soil, is an international jurisdiction. Think of it like a layered sheet cake with the soil layer overlying the land layer and the whole thing cut up into state pieces. Also, think of it as the United States overlying the United States of America, whose reach extends out beyond the shores of our nation states to the edge of our currently claimed international sea boundary. That is, a proper map of the United States of America would not only show the land jurisdiction of the states, but would extend onto or out into the sea and include the maritime borders defined as American waters. Thus, the national boundaries of our states and of the United States are fixed and immutable as a depth dimension, but the international jurisdiction of the land and sea overseen by the United States of America is quite subject to change, as proven by over 200 years of disputes over everything from deep sea fishing rights to ownership of oil reserves in the Arctic Ocean. All right. So, anybody have any questions to that? I'm going to go back to PowerPoint. Okay. All right, so getting into the birth certificate scam, okay? So you should know that your birth certificate is actually the evidence of the crime against your life. The real purposes of your birth certificate. There are two certificates. There's the certificate of live birth and the birth certificate short form. Both are securities and both are bonds. The difference is that the certificate of live birth shows your given name in upper and lower case and tells the day you were born and where you were born. The short form shows a birth date and a birthplace, and everything is in all capital letters. It's issued by the Department of Commerce, which seizes upon your given name against the interests of the state where you were born, uses your given name to create a person, which is not born, but it is birthed. And it actually should be spelled B-E-R-T-H, as in a vessel. With the birth of this person, you, the baby, are declared civilly dead, and your name and estate are deemed granted to the British Crown, the banks and the judiciary as chattel property, the cargo of a vessel in commerce. So what does this mean? The birth certificate is proof that your natural political status was changed without your knowledge or consent, and that you and your estate were seized upon by the District of Columbia Municipal Corporation in criminal malfeasance and act of war against an innocent non-combatant, quote, vessel that owned protected status. The birth certificate is an insurance indemnity receipt, which is required under the Lieber Code/Hague Conventions. They have to give you an indemnity receipt for the property they are stealing from you, essentially an insurance policy guaranteeing that your property won't be harmed as a result of their use of it. This makes you the subrogee, which is the insured party and priority creditor of your estate holdings. This process of registration, as opposed to recording, creates a separate person named after your given trade name, yet owned and operated by a franchise of the municipal United States. The separate government of Washington, D.C. operated as an international city-state by the members of Congress. The birth certificate is a bond, literally. It's a bond issued against the value of the estate, or more recently, a public transmitting utility, and the assets that belong to you. A bond is an IOU, a promise to pay under stipulated conditions. You have their certificate proving that you are the actual owner of the assets being bonded. But until and unless you claim your exemption from their system of things, the benefit of the bond goes to the state or department that is insuring your purloined property against loss or damage. Okay, so the dates on your birth certificate. There are two prominent dates displayed on their certificate. One is your actual birthday. The other is the file date, when the person or a corporate municipal franchise was created and replaced you as the beneficiary, and the corporate franchise person named after you has a birth date, which is always a few days or weeks after your birthday. In effect, the birth certificate records the death of your claim to own your own estate and trade name, and the, quote, birth of the federal person's claim upon your assets. You are always the holder in due course, the party having the first claim, first in line, first in time, to the trade name and estate. But if you don't claim it or know how to claim it, you are out of luck and disinherited. And this is why it's so important for us to correct our status, because we are basically letting them know that we are alive, we aren't dead, we aren't lost at sea, we are not some infant decedent estate trust or some Sestakive estate trust. We are a living man or woman, and we are claiming back all of our assets. So that's why it's important to correct your status. So who signs your birth certificate? The birth certificate is signed by the registrar, which is an officer of the probate court, which proves that your estate was probated. The living American state national, for example, the New Jerseyan, named John Edward Doe, was taken off the title of his natural estate, and his natural nationality and political status was changed to that of John Edward Doe, in all capital letters, a federal municipal franchise corporation and citizen of the United States. That is a citizen under diversity clause of the old federal code, which allows corporations to be citizens. The process of false probate just described results in the unlawful conversion of your name and estate assets, makes you a U.S. citizen instead of an American state national. It removes you from the jurisdiction of the land and deprives you of your constitutional protections, makes you indebted and obligated to pay the bills of foreign corporations, and otherwise plays havoc with you and your entire country. Why is your birth certificate on bond paper? The birth certificate is issued on bond paper, giving you, quote, silent notice that the assets named on the face of the document, your unlawfully converted estate assets, including the copyright to your trade name, your land, your labor, and everything you could ever own, has been seized upon and bonded by the organization issuing the certificate. So the other thing that people need to grasp is that they themselves are the only source of this supposed, quote, wealth. Bonds are debts. They are promises to pay. Your work and your labor and even your body has been pledged by these bastards so that they could borrow virtually unlimited credit in your name. And so they have. Just like any identity theft, they have used your name and borrowed assets from others using you, your labor, and your land, your homes, and your business as collateral. These criminals have borrowed vast sums of money against you and your public and private assets, used the borrowed money to benefit themselves and their cronies, pushed the credit cards as far as they will go, then bowed out and sought bankruptcy protection for themselves while leaving your name as the secondary responsible for paying back all that money they borrowed and gave away or squandered or reinvested for their own benefit. And all of this was done with no disclosure to you, okay? Without your knowledge or consent, without your parents' knowledge or consent, and the people doing this to you are on your payroll, supposed to be rendering you good faith service the whole while. Because you don't know that this is being done to you and that these false claims against you are being made, you have no opportunity to object to them, much less delve through it to rebut these lies and claim your exemption and exercise your indemnity. So what is in a name? Okay. For many years, the U.S. corporation seized upon your given Christian trade name, just as you were taught to print it in first grade with the first name, middle name, and last name all written in upper and lower case like this, John Michael Doe. But they created the Sustakee Estate Trust. So what is the difference between the Sustakee Estate Trust versus the public transmitting utility? Well, the estate trusts are all named with the first, middle, and last names appearing in all capital letters, John Michael Doe. And this is the municipal corporation. Then you have the public transmitting utilities all appear with only a middle initial, but still in all capital letters, like John M. Doe. Please note that any name in any style that uses only a middle initial is not a legal name. It is meaningless and void for lack of specificity. Okay, and just recently they started getting away with the dot next to the middle initial and just doing John M. Doe. And this also goes for initialing anything. That's why the banks, accept initials, and on different contracts that you sign with attorneys, they let you initial things because it's meaningless. All right, the civilized world. Meet your multi-divisible and stateless self. So you start off right here in the middle. John William Doe. This is your trade name, but they claim that you are lost at sea. All right. And the first purpose vehicle, the special vehicle that they create for you is the Infant Decedent Estate Trust. And when that became bankrupt, then they created a special purpose vehicle and named it John W. Doe. And because you now own nothing, they've taken everything from you. They've left you, they human trafficked you out of your birthright status and, just stole everything from you. So, because they did that, they had to then create you. The number 3 is the ward of the state. The ward of the state is where, you get welfare and they have to, take care of you. They claim you as a ward of the state. All right, here are some of the research material for proof of name fraud, okay? I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm going to go through a few of them, though, and I'm going to see if I can actually copy and paste them in the chat. But notice regarding named entities, notice of liability, demand to show cause. So if you look up in Bouvier's Law Dictionary, the 8th edition, page 2287, it states, which by the way, this is the law dictionary that we use in American common law. We do not use Black's Law Dictionary. That is the C jurisdiction's law dictionary. That is legalese. And that's, if you want to know what some of their codes and statutes mean, that would be the dictionary to look up. But our dictionary we use is Bouvier's Law Dictionary. And it states the omission of the Christian name by either plaintiff or defendant in a legal process prevents the court from acquiring jurisdiction. And then in Greg's Manual of English, a name spelled in all capital letters or a name initialed is not a proper noun denoting a specific person, but is a fictitious name or a name of a dead person or a nom de guerre. Complaint must identify at least one plaintiff by true name. Otherwise, no action has been commenced. This is in a case, Roe versus New York. Okay. The reasoning behind a true name is that neither a state nor the United States, and notice right here, by the way, it's a lowercase. This is the municipal government, can pick up a pencil or sneeze, being nothing more than a piece of paper. They cannot therefore assume the liability of actions nor write a complaint. All activities carried on by government agencies are carried out by its agents and actors, and those actors are individually liable for their actions. This means you, as a public employee under contract to a governmental service provider, a foreign corporation, which is working for me under contract, are accountable and liable for actions you take that misidentify or seek to defraud or mischaracterize people such as me who are living as lawful persons, not legal persons. This also means that when you undertake, quote, legal actions against lawful persons, no such actions are owed enforcement of any kind. And I want to pause there for a second because the difference between legal actions against lawful persons, you're talking about a different jurisdiction here, one that is made up with legal fictions. It can't press any kind of a lawsuit against a lawful person because that would mean a living, breathing man or woman. And a fictional entity can't interact, or even a dead entity, because that's also what they consider you. It can't interact with a lawful person who is a breathing, living man or woman. This is the beginning and the end of your territorial and/or municipal prosecutorial capacity, and I'm giving you explicit notice that I am standing on the land and soil of, and that I am operating exclusively as a lawful person with explicit declarations and proof of of my identity and capacity established on the public record. And then you've got other different court cases to kind of back that up. I'm going to, let's scroll down here. Maybe I'll go to 6. So this is coming out of the American Sign Language. So the reason why they have this American Sign Language is because that's what legalese is. It's American Sign Language. Signed languages, the old gestural languages used by deaf people as different parts of the world, are called signed languages. Signed languages are quite different from spoken languages, although there may be regional effects of language contact. In a particular signed language may or may not share the same national or geographical boundaries as spoken languages in the same locations. The individual elements of these languages are known as signs. Let's go back here and let's do number 9. Let's see what that one is. All right, so this is going over the definition of gloss. To mask the true nature of, give deceptively attractive appearance to, used with over. To deal with a subject or problem too lightly or not at all used with over. And I think the reason why she has this, I took these, by the way, off of the TASA website. You could go on there and grab these as well. All of them are on there. But I'm guessing that this is part of that packet because this is what they do to commit the fraud. They gloss over everything. So, all right. So authentication versus apostille or certification. Okay, so I'm going to pause here for a second because I think some people like to get their birth certificates authenticated. And I'm just going to go over the differences so that you know in case this is something that you ever want to do, okay, and why you would want to do it. All right. So countries that are signers on the Hague Conventions use apostilles to verify genuine documents passing between themselves. Countries that are not part of the Hague Conventions use authentication for the same purpose. Certification is an in-house domestic equivalent of a guaranteed and isn't strong enough for international use. The United States of America never signed the Hague Conventions. The United States did, okay? So I want to make a distinction here. The United States of America is the federation, okay? That is the land jurisdiction. The United States did sign it, and the United States are the counties within the state, okay? That is the United States. As a result, documents issued by or pertaining to the United States of America and its international functions have to be authenticated, while documents issued by or pertaining to the United States have to be apostilled. Now, notice this right here is a lowercase. This means the municipal government, okay? Both processes serve the same purposes of verifying and recording the paper. When you act as an American state national, you are acting under the auspices of the United States of America. So when you are ready to reclaim your assets and exercise your exemptions, you use documents that are authenticated. Okay. And now I want to play this for you guys. It's a short video.
This is my birth certificate, and you can see that the name is in all caps here. But
there's no volume.
Sorry, Randy, did the volume go out?
Yeah, I can't hear anything.
All right, let me rewind it. Hold on a second.
This is my birth certificate.
Can you guys hear it now?
And you can see that the name is in all caps here,
Yeah.
but everything else is in lowercase except for my father's name and my mother's name. And then I have my birth date, which is up here, March 29th, 1:22 p.m. And then here's where my mother signed it. And this says signature of parent or other informant. Informant. And then signature of attendant, which is Carl L. Armstrong, captain. And then signature of local registrar, the deputy, William G. Kruger. So those were signed, these two were signed on the 30th of March. And then the deputy registrar signed on April 2nd, 1957. So here's where I became an infant decedent estate. Excuse me, on April 2nd, 1957, I became an infant decedent estate. That's when I was registered, not recorded. Okay.
Hey, Terry, I have a question for you really quickly.
Mhm.
You know, when you go into the courts and they ask for your birth date, I wonder if anybody has ever offered the actual file date as the birth date and watched what happens.
Yes, they have.
What happens?
Well, basically then you're giving them the infant decedent estate. And so, and this is evidence of the crime. This shows the unlawful conversion. This shows the trafficking of you, the human trafficking of you from one jurisdiction into multiple. Because they probably trafficked me into the territorial on the 30th. And then trafficked me into the municipal on this. So your birth certificate is evidence of a crime, and that's why, you know, that becomes part of our package. Now, when you go into court, who are they summoning? They're summoning the infant decedent estate, and they are using a double-ended identity theft scheme because both jurisdictions have misidentified you, unlawfully converted you, and trafficked you into their jurisdiction.
All right. Everybody heard that?
This is my birth certificate, and this is my birth.
Oh, there we go. All right. Moving on to the Susta KV. All right. So if you look this up in Webster's dictionary, it's the person whose life measures the duration of an estate. The person on whose life an insurance policy is written. Now we're going to get a little bit into the Susta KV. Okay, a little bit of the history of this. All right, so Susta KV Trust Act of 1666, overstanding the existence of its life, okay? It started in London in 1666 during the Black Plague and the Great Fires of London, which we are told that those great fires were them trying to get rid of evidence, of course. Parliament enacted an act behind closed doors called the Susta KV Act of 1666. The act being debated was to subrogate the rights of men and women. And notice that word again, subrogate. You know, we were told that, you know, we are the subrogee when they create that, you know, trust. It's meaning all men and women were declared dead, lost at sea, beyond the sea. Back then, we were all operating they were operating the Admiralty law, the law of the sea. So claiming us lost at sea. The state, London, took custody of everybody and their property into a trust. The state became the trustee or husband holding all titles to the people and the property. Until a living man comes back to reclaim those titles, he can also claim damages. When capital letters are used anywhere in a name, this always refers to a legal entity or fiction, a company or corporation, no exception. So in other words, John Doe, John is in upper and lowercase, right? But Doe is in all capital letters. Or Doe, Jane in all capital letters. I mean, they tried stylizing your names in so many different ways. The fraud is, there's no limits there. So 1, the Cestui Estate Trust, pronounced Cestui, common term in New Zealand and Australia. 2, the straw man is a common term in United States of America and Canada. So they call it a straw man because basically they created this like doll-like figure that's just made of straw. It's nothing, right? Like in The Wizard of Oz, the straw man. These are legal entity fiction created and owned by the government who created it. It is like owning a share in the stock market. You may own a share, but it is still a share of the stock. Legally, we are considered to be a fiction, a concept or an idea expressed as a name and or symbol. That legal person has no consciousness. It is a juristic person, ens legis, a name word written on a piece of paper. This traces back to 1666. London is an independent city-state, just like the Vatican is an independent city-state, just like Washington, D.C. is an independent city-state. The Crown is an unincorporated association. Why unincorporated? It's private. The Temple Bar is in London. Every lawyer called to the bar swears its allegiance to the Temple Bar. You can't get called without swearing this allegiance. So all of our bar attorneys, whether they know it or not, and most of them don't know it, are esquires, and they hold a title of nobility and owe their allegiance to the British Crown. Our only way out is to claim your dead entity or straw man that the Crown created, become the executor, and then collapse the called Cestui Trust and forgive of your debts, and then remove yourself from the admiralty law that holds you in custody. When London burned, the subrogation of men's and women's right occurred. The Responsible Act passed, the Cestui Act of 1666, meant all men and women of UK were declared dead and lost beyond the seas. The state took everybody and everybody's property into trust. The state takes control until the living man or woman comes back and claims their titles by providing they are alive, and claims for damages can be made. This is why you always need representation when involved in legal matters, because you're dead, which is why they call their traffic tickets a summons, because you summons the dead. You don't summon the living. The legal fiction is a construct on paper, an estate in trust. When you get a bill or summons from court, it is always in capital letters, similar to tombstones in graveyards. Capital letters signify death. They are writing to the dead legal fiction. A legal fiction was created when someone informed the government that there was a new vessel in town based upon your birth. Birth certificates are issued to us by the dock, just as ships were given birth certificates when they are birthed at the dock. It's about commerce. We come from our mother's waters. Your mother has a birth canal just like a ship. The ship moves by the sea current, just as we are able to move by the currency. All this information relates to how the general public are still legally tied through maritime admiralty law. Through this ancient legal construct, we can be easily controlled and duped. Learning about your legal fiction helps you to unlock yourself. Otherwise, you are just an empty vessel floating on the sea of commerce. Parents are tricked, registering the birth of their babies. In about 1837, the Births, Deaths, and Marriages Act was formed in the UK, and the post of Registrar General was established. His job was to collect all the data from the churches which held the records of birth. I want to just go back one. And this, by the way, I'll take you there. This is the government website that shows the Cestui Que Act of 1666, and this is on the UK's government website. So it's right there, smack in your face for you to see for yourself. All right. So Regis from Queen or Crown. All people are seen to be in custody of the Crown. This allows people to function in commerce and to accept the benefits provided by the state. We have to understand who we are as men and women and how we can relate in the system. The City of London is a center for markets where the merchants work. Then there is a mercantile law. It comes from admiralty law. Look at the symbols in your city courts that relate to admiralty law. So where you have commerce and money, you also have justice and injury. You need to understand the bankruptcy before you can understand the judiciary. We have accepted the claim to accept the summons, yet only the dead can be summoned. There is an obligation to accept any liability which has been created. And we have been operating in admiralty. A not guilty plea or any plea admits jurisdiction. The straw man, aka the legal fiction, is always guilty. Barristers and solicitors make a living out of creating controversy. By creating controversy, you become liable for the case. So we want to make sure that we are staying in honor instead of dishonor, okay? To remain in honor, you have to accept a claim and settle or discharge it. Then you add conditions, i.e., I accept on proof of claim and proof of loss. This gives the liability back to them. The legal fiction is always guilty. Only in the high court can the real man or woman appear. Games are played on courts, hence the name court. It's a game with actors, like when they say the acting judge or, acting on acts, the acting, lawyer. It has to be treated as a game and just business. Courtroom dramas are misinformation. In the public, we are operating in bankruptcy and you receive benefits. It takes a lot of time, effort, and study to understand and use these tools. You have to be prepared to go fully through the process, get the right tool out of your toolbox at the right time. All right. People need to learn how to act as a creation of God rather than a creation of man. And unfortunately, that's what they've done. They've created this fictional entity when really we are children of God. And I believe, yes, that's the end of the presentation. I'm just going to open it up for Q&A. Anybody have any questions? Not all at once. Is your eyes glossed over because nobody's got their cameras on?
I mean, it seems pretty straightforward to me. I mean, like, it was pretty self-explanatory, I guess, like with the way you presented it. So it's not hard to understand, I guess.
Gotcha. Anybody that's learning this for the first time that's on the call tonight? Latanya, are you on New Jersey? Maybe some people are being shy. Oh, maybe she's on the car. Okay, so she's from New Jersey. Can your mute button, can you unmute, or are you on a device that you can't?
I'm sorry, my phone is crazy.
Oh, there you are. Latanya, what county are you on?
I'm in Camden County in New Jersey.
Oh, okay. All right. And so what did you make of this? Are you status corrected already?
I am status corrected, and I just want to tell you, you did an amazing job. It was very clear. I've been learning this stuff for a while, and the way you articulated it, it was very clear. It was very easy to understand. I can see why no one has any questions. It was a very good presentation.
Aw, thank you. I
You're welcome.
I would love to answer any questions. Any new people on? Richard, what county are you on?
More, hello, can you hear me?
Hi. We can hear you. Yep.
Oh, there you are. Okay, I'm in Morris County,
Oh, okay. Oh,
and I've been to a couple of the meetings at J-Town, the
yes.
tavern.
Are you Richard Romano?
That's me.
Ah, thank you for coming on tonight. What did
Yeah.
you think about this? You have any questions on this?
No, I just have to get to the process and start getting the paperwork done. I just haven't done it yet.
Gotcha. And I will
But-
say, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We have been telling people if they're new to this information and they're trying to get all the paperwork together, get it together. And before you go to the notary, snap a screenshot of it from your phone and send it over to our recording secretary. So if there's any mistakes, she can correct it right away before you go to the notary. And then even again, after the notary, you might want to just, again, if it's necessary, you can send it to her before you mail it to her. Because it's once you do it, it's not very complicated. But I think once you're new getting into it, and there's a couple of different forms that we have, because we have people from all different kinds of walks of life. We have veterans, we have people that have been naturalized, we have people that want to hold dual citizenship. So there's all sorts of different forms. It's just, finding the right form. And sometimes people don't always get it right on the first time. So, I encourage.
I have the wrong form, I think. So I have to get another form.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, and Michelle's really great. She'll, help you, and, she's good at texting and stuff too.
That's true. And she did offer. So I have to take advantage of that.
Awesome. All right. Rachel, from Bergen, any questions on your end?
No, not right now.
Okay. And remind me, did you say that you've been status corrected since the summer?
Since last July.
Yeah, got you.
Actually came to one of the meetings at the restaurant that's closed down now.
Oh, you mean in Bud Lake, the
Yes.
What was it called? I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I'm sure if I saw your face, I'd remember who you are. I'm not very good with names, but I do remember faces.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, look, if nobody else has any more questions, I'm going to try to do these kinds of education classes regularly. The next one I think we're going to do is either on taxes and or I don't know which one's going to come first, but and the paperwork. Going through each of the documents so that everybody has a clear understanding of why you are needing to do you know, what is the 1779 Naturalization Act? Why do you need, what, you know, what does that get for you? And then when you do your 928 forms and all these different things, what do they mean for you? So we'll be doing that. And if there's a topic that you want to learn more about, you know, send me an email. I am going to put my email in the chat. Let me stop screen sharing. I'm going to put, where's the chat? There it is. I'll put my email here in case you don't have it already. All right, and just shoot me an email and let me know if there's a topic of discussion that you would like to learn more about. All right, and the next face-to-face, oh, Latanya says she wants to learn how to use the 928 paperwork. Yeah, awesome, because that's one of the next series that I think I'll be working on. And Latanya says she's a veteran. Okay, wonderful. I guess you probably had to do the special paperwork. Latanya, let me know if there's anything you need help with anything else in that regards. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for showing up tonight and listening to the presentation. And I'll make sure that is everybody on the email list? Is there anybody not on the email list? All right, cool. All right, well, I'll send out the next one, and you know, the next presentation we have is going to be at the end of the month at Buffalo Wild Wings in Rockaway. So you can come out and see us face to face. But I'll probably do these online ones once or twice a month. All right, guys. Thanks again. Have a good night. Bye, everybody.
Good night, everybody. All right,
Thank
good night.
you.
Bye.